And wait for a few seconds here. And all right, everybody. Hey, guess what? You're dealing with Education with Ed. And due to education, well, you know those things that sound the same, like there, and there, or where and where, you know? Bear. You know, I came up with, I realized one that actually was quite interesting. Now, I figured out a way to put it properly. When the federal side of the government gives us a
That's your
tax.
elected and public employees.
Okay, Ed, do you want to say this instead, or are you going to shut it?
No, I was just adding something.
Okay, when the public servants give us a tax, then it attacks the natives. And think of that. A tax, as in you're paying a tax, and then a tax, like you're attacking something. So a tax attacks. If you think about it, that's true, because anytime a tax shows up, it attacks us, the natives.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that. So whenever it's like, oh, I got to pay taxes, think about it. You're giving in to terrorists that are attacking you. So Ed, why don't you continue on? I'll shut up now.
Oh, okay. Anyhow, first off, we'd like to thank you for joining us again. And the whole thing about all this is about reading and proper education, because if we don't educate ourselves, we're the ones that are in problems. We're the problems. And that's where people got to wake up to the circumstances. If you don't educate your children, you're the problem. If you don't stand up and know this stuff, you're the problem. See, you can't blame everybody else. And he brings up a good point on tax for tax, because you think about these things. Because all the treaties, and it goes back, and I was listening to Rob Ryder in a video that I just got off a conversation with Rob Ryder before we started the show again. And he's got another video up that was 2 months old that I was going over. And, it's knowing, do you want to be a servant or do you want to be a slave? They're the same, in a sense. Servants have privileges, slaves have nothing. So it's, what do you want? And so this is the one thing that we're dealing with today. I'm waiting for my screen to come up, because I've been getting into Social Security here lately with people. And it's interesting because Rob brought up a wonderful point dealing with the Red Cross today on his video. And I'm going through that because people don't realize the Red Cross, okay, when you really come down to the Red Cross is from England. Foundation of Red Cross, and all the money that you send goes to England, does not stay in the United States. Seriously, do some research on it if you don't believe me, but trust me, I know what I'm talking about on this. I've been through this. And so it comes down to the research on the circumstances. And this is the one thing that, when we get into, like with Social Security, everybody keeps going into corporation. Social Security originally was a Social Security Administration, established 1936. Okay, and then it went to court in 1937, 1939, and 1941 to prove it was lawfully constitution to have a retirement system for lawful bloodline natives. This was not including immigration. And I gotta pull that page up. I gotta pull that page up here too, because I want to get into some of the immigration stuff on this with Social Security, so people comprehend. Because everybody keeps going, oh, well, the immigrants they pay Social Security, they ought to have these rights. No, they don't have a right. Immigration has no right in this, and that was Executive Order 2040, and that's every birth certificate valued at $630,000. Now, this was done back in 1933. So if you look at that price, $630,000, these are things that make you wonder about what's going on around you. That's like when I'm getting ready to do this other letter I'm doing with one of the county commissioners, because, I'm writing in it, you're playing dress up, what you're doing, what are we supposed to be paying for? I want to know what you think the taxpayers are liable for, and also, too, to make it perfectly clear, that if you give your Social Security number, it's a federal crime and you can go to jail. Okay, that's what people don't get it. Social Security, oh, wait a minute. How did that? Hang on a minute. I got some feedback that just happened. So, but it's like, this is the one thing that gets, what gets so exciting on these things. You know, that people have got to realize that when it comes down to these circumstances of what's going on, you have to read these circumstances. You cannot just assume things. And that's what your public employees want you to do, assume. So if you assume, that's like an immigration, you know, it's like this guy, you know, Johnny over in, New Mexico in jail, you know, we're standing up in the border control. And it's like, you know, Johnny didn't file his paperwork. I went after people to do this. Well, at least he had something to go in court. But now he's going to court and he's going by his Christian name. Well, okay, because, well, his Christian name is a good name. Well, sorry, I don't have the British government dictating to me. I won't have the Roman curse or church, either or, not to dictate to me. And see, that's the point that you people got to start coming to this factual reality of what the world is. Because, see, if you keep allowing democracy to run you, you're not going to have freedom. You're going to be going right back to Egyptian days where you're going to be whipped and beat and enslaved. And I got to throw in, man, I got to thank Arkansas because they passed a bill to legalize machine guns. We have a right to it. It's called, like, responsibility. Like, when are the children going to grow up? And that's what dealing with Social Security is about when you read this stuff. Social Security, you cannot give your Social Security number out. It is a federal crime. And as soon as I get back to my page here on that, I got to find the Trump, the president deal with. The president has authority on the border. And all these people are saying, oh, we shouldn't have these rights to the border, but, you know, this is part of 42 U.S.C. 408 penalties. This is penalties when you give your Social Security number out because your Social Security number is for you. Okay? It's your structure to prove that you are employed and you have a retirement fund. That's what Social Security was set up for. All right? It's not the government. It's not the Democracy Party. It's not the senators and congressmen's play fund. So let's clarify that. It's not their money at all, ever. And it's too bad that Americans cannot stand up and start being stand up in the process of it. So, but anyhow, under 42 Act, even Social Security Act 208, okay, under 42 USC, what I just quoted, 408. And if you show your Social Security number, disclose your number, it is a personal federal crime. But remember the word person. Person is an inanimate object. So either when I did my paperwork, and I did file my other paperwork on my disability, I wanted to prove I was lawful, not legal. So I had rights, not privileges. And so that's the whole point about this, is knowing what a right is compared to a privilege. Immigration are privileges and rights belong to lawful bloodline natives. And so the other point is you always want to do a Freedom of Information Act on a lot of this stuff. And Freedom of Information Act, that's 5 U.S.C. 552. And please read that. And when you do a Freedom of Information Act on your records, even Social Security or whatever records you want to try to do them on, please always include not only the federal, but the state. Now, the federal government says that the deal for them to file back a letter to you in response is 7 days. But also, too, if they do not file back within 7 days, then that's your responsibility to monitor and maintain this stuff. If they do not respond back to you in 7 days, then you file the complaint on them. And then you file the criminal charges for their, what is that called? Stealing taxpayer funding. Because they stole taxpayer funding to justify a job they're not doing. And see, this is the one thing that people have got to start seeing how this works. You know, and the other point is to see now what they did is William Jefferson Clinton changed Social Security back in 1997. I believe it was August. See, Social Security was not a government agency or part of a government agency. It was basically a quasi administration was a private contract, was the original structure. And see, that's the one thing that if anybody's paid attention, you'll notice things have been really altered in history here lately, because we are not a democracy and we are not part of the British government, but now they're including that, and now they got some states that are going and they're passing to have religion taught in schools, which is ridiculous, because religion is not supposed to be in schools. I don't care what you think. Your God and my God are two different gods. So who's to determine whose God is to be taught in school? So none of that religion stuff should be taught or exposed in schools ever, in public schools. If you want to send them to a private school and mind alter your kid, that's your decision. And then when the kids wake up, that's you guys' decision after that. But that also, too, comes under the structure of Social Security Protection Act, the Child Protection Act. And that's the one thing that, see, when they sit there and tell you, well, we need your kid's Social Security number when you're dealing with a corporation, you cannot give a kid's Social Security number out, period, because a Social Security number cannot technically and legally exist for a child under 18. Okay? And no lie to you. Remember, these men and women are professional paid liars and murderers and assaulters. And I can definitely say that, because if a sheriff comes to your house and you didn't pay your taxes, your property taxes, whatever taxes, that's an assault. That's terrorism. And that's the one thing that we've got to start standing up and presenting this stuff. So when the Executive Order 2040 went into existence, and that was December 6, 19, that's the Trading with the Enemy Act. March 9, 1933, the FDR changed the meaning of the Trading with the Enemy Act and changed the word without to citizen within the United States. Well, they had to do that because, see, within the United States, that's within the United States of the corporation, and I believe that is 3002. And so that is the point that you want to quote these things and read these things and look at these things. And also, too, under USC Code 1401, nationals and citizens of the United States at birth are enemies to the United States Corporation and enemies to natives. Okay, nationals and citizens are the corporation members. And people say, oh, well, nationals are different than citizens, and we have state nationals and we have state citizens. I don't want to be anybody, a corporation member. I'm going by the structure of 1863 that says when the United States Corporation was not formed, because remember, the corporation wasn't formed until after the Civil War. And that's the one thing that people don't know, and they don't comprehend how the Civil War was a factor in a lot of these things. And you've got to, when you look at these things, it's very interesting. So when FDR put in Executive 2040, March 9th, 1933, that made in turn your structure and a privilege, and so that structure on your Social Security account became $630,000. All right, that was on your birth certificate bundle bonding. Okay, so that comes down to people don't get it. When the birth certificate was created, this is a structure that was done when the federal government, the British banks, went bankrupt to we the people. So you got to remember, they went bankrupt to we the people. So we didn't go bankrupt. All this national debt is not our debt. That's the British government. That's called the United States Corporation, your state corporation, your jobs. Because most people's jobs are paid through their Social Security system anyways. They double lap it, and then they write it off at the end of the year. It is interesting once you start really realizing and putting these things together, and you start really looking at these things. And this is the one thing that when people keep going like the 14th Amendment, it's like the Supreme Court, Jones versus Turner, 89 FUPP 1226, the Privileges and Immunities Clause of the 14th Amendment protects very few rights because it neither incorporates the Bill of Rights nor protects the Bill of Rights of individual, and they have citizens in this court case in this small c, but technically citizens are supposed to be in the capital C when they do this, but this is the writings what attorneys and lawyers do to keep you in the system because people don't know the correct spelling of capital or, the capital TH or capital C, depends on the way it's presented and the way the writing is. And so that's one thing. It is so apparently to know what the writings and meanings of words are compared to what we're led to believe they are. So the 14th Amendment didn't protect anybody. It didn't protect any what they call slaves. What it did, it incorporated slaves. So it made it slaves that had to have a number. So that was part of the structure of the early Social Security structure they put in after the Civil War. Because remember, this Social Security was originally set up for Navy or military personnel on the American side that were injured and lost a limb or something like that, and to pay their bills after the Civil War. And that goes all the way back to the structure with, I hate to say, with the British government. When the British government, after the war ended, the British government, with all the pirate ships they had out, with the bounty, they would give you so much if you lost a limb, if you lost an eye, for your retirement. And that's what Social Security was based on originally, off of the structure of that. So at least you had some retirement for your life, because the thing is, not everybody saved up or was able to make a certain amount of income. But see, and then people say, well, you only put so much in a year, so that doesn't affect what you put in because you only put a little bit in. And it's like, what always disturbs me with these uneducated transients out there is it really frustrates me because, see, when you put money in, it depends on how many other people are putting in that month and that year, and you're all part of that collective insurance bond of the interest coming up. So everybody is in that one policy. It's not just you individually. See, that's the one thing that when they wrote it, that's why I do suggest people actually reading the circumstances and reading this stuff, reading the congressional records. And let's not forget that even the United States Supreme Court in 1795, put in the structure that a government, a governor, or whatever is an artificial person. And that's where I'm getting to the point where when you see the word person, artificial, so it means it doesn't exist. It's an inanimate object. So it's knowing what the words mean and reading between the lines of how these things. It's like I've had people go, Ed, how do you know about this, dealing with the Constitution? Well, step out and watch the movie. I mean, this stuff has been going on for the last couple of 100 years, and it's paying attention to what the wording means and how these people are trying to steal your assets. Now, a U.S. citizen, in which I am not, and this affects, Social Security too, as well as both sides. But I'm not a United States resident. I'm not a United States citizen. I'm just a bloodline native. I don't want to have a title of nobility. The minute you give yourself a title of nobility, the only one who could do that in Congress, and then you become liable. And see, that is the one thing that you got to see how these things transvert in these circumstances. And then that way, you're not even guaranteed due process of law. And then so when you end up in a court system, and, this is what I always have frustration with sometimes with people, they go to these courts or district court. You're in a district court of a foreign government. Why do you think the 1938 Foreign Agent Registration Act exists? They have to register as foreign agents because they're stealing money from this country and bleeding it out from the inside out. But to me, it's simple. I see this, but not to everybody else sees this. But that's the one point that comes down to why there's an oath of office for these clerks. So when you have a judge, you need to go research a judge to see if he took a note to the Constitution, the corporation, what his oath is, what his circumstances is, and who he has the contract with. And you always do a Freedom of Information Act, and if you don't get any response from him, the judge is not God. He has no thing. There's no such thing as, whatever. And the one thing is, I do like the structure where they swear on the Bible because they're swearing on their devil. They're swearing on their structure. So that's the one thing that people go, we have a problem with that. And it's like, I don't have a problem with them taking their own oath, because then usually somebody in the house starts cleaning up and comprehending these things. So all judges are lawfully required by 28 U.S.C. 372 to have an oath of office. And you always want to ask the judge, and you don't ask them. See, I mean, I talk to a lot of people, and they go to court, and I said this in court, and I said that in court, and I said, so you did hearsay evidence? Well, no, I said it in court, and I said, no, you did hearsay evidence, because, see, in court, there's no men and women unless there's a grand jury. In a grand jury, a jury trial has to be 12 men and women, and 6 men of the peers, and 6 men of the peers of the injured party and the perpetrator. So it is structured that way, you know. So people need to start looking at these things, you know. So, you know, so it is one of those things. It's, you know, how these things involved. So, and you got to remember, the oath of office in admiralty jurisdiction technically is a crime. Either they take an oath to the Constitution, or if they do admiralty commercial codes, you know, that you are not, you know, a participant of, it's a federal crime. And that could be prosecution, but right now I do have to agree with a couple other people, you know, nobody's getting justice, nobody's getting prosecution, but we have been watching things changed. So that's the one thing I want to make sure people are paying attention. You are watching things change. And see, it is not the function of the government to keep the citizens from falling into error. It's the function of the citizens to keep the government from falling into error. See, when it comes down to this one, and this is American Communications Associations versus Dodds 339 USC 382 442 1950. Well, you got to remember, 1950. All these people going back there, they're all going by commercial code, and a lot of these people didn't even know the structure of commercial code and stuff. They just followed and did what they were taught and believed, and so what do they know? So, excuse me. So it is one of those things of looking at how these things are presented. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, Hale versus Hinkle Act. I mean, you know, that is one that everybody should be posting in everything they write, you know. And yes, cops are out breaking the law. We know that. And everybody says, well, it's the law. And it's like, no, I do a lot of correction on people. I ask them, is it a statute, code, or administrative rule? Because to me, the law is the Constitution and the treaties, the law of the land. And that's what it says in the Constitution. That's what it says in the treaties, that the Constitution and treaties are the law of the land. Not a statute, code, administrative rule. So, and when these men and women commit treason, that's where we need to be filing these criminal charges. And everybody keeps going, well, why should I file criminal charges? You know, it doesn't do me any good. And it's like, you're missing the point. It does too. Yes, the system has been slow reacting, but since the new president's been in office, there's been a lot of changes, a lot of things happening. People are freaking out. And we like it when people freak out. Because, you know, these people are out there trying to dictate to us how to live, telling us we need to believe in somebody else's religion, and if we don't believe in that religion, we should be executed, and that's a reality. You know, I mean, these Muslims are out there saying murder, 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 and I can't believe the intelligence of people go, oh, they're not meeting that. And it's like, God, what kind of stupid people are there out there? We know there's a lot of stupid people. So, and that is the one thing that you've got to pay attention to, what's going on in these manners. So, when it comes down to, I'm going to hit this. I don't know what that just came in. So, because my computer is still running a little slow. So, but I'm going to be getting into this. But see, an artificial person, all right, because an artificial person cannot take an oath. So that means a living man has to take an oath, or a living woman has to take an oath to office. So that means she's taking a liability issue. Yes, I do have the laws that judges and police officers are not exonerated. You can charge them and put them in prison just like everybody else. They have no immunity. But see, this is one thing that people don't realize. You have to quote these administrative rules in your writings. If you don't quote it in the original writings, it's called hearsay evidence, and they're not going to accept it. Put it in original filings, you get it certified by the clerk, and now you have standing. And that's the whole point. And if he or she is a member of the bar, remember that is the British accreditation to the King and Queen of England. So, and that's an admiralty jurisdiction. So if it is an admiralty jurisdiction, you can't be in that courtroom because that's not for you. That's supposed to be for the military. And see, that's where people are not comprehending how, like, what Social Security does. You know, everybody wants to get into the argument about, you know, what Social Security does, what it doesn't do. Oh, it doesn't protect you. You're stealing from me. You know, yeah, we're going to be giving you the form here as soon as I find a form here. Because you can opt out of Social Security. I mean, even taxes. Taxes are opt out. I did that when I grew up. You know. And also, too, failure to comply with the Foreign Registration Act is mandatory prison, but you have to write it in the structure. You have to quote the actual laws in these things. Because if you don't quote the law in it, they're not going to do nothing. Because what? You know, people say, well, they're supposed to know the law. Well, yes, they're supposed to know the law, but remember, they go by administrative rules, so you have to quote them what they're supposed to go by. And that's the one thing that we have to be responsible in on these things of making sure these things are happening. And so I don't know if you're trying to say something to me, come online, because, I mean, I can't see if you sent me something because my FB ain't bright enough right now. Something's going on. So, but anyhow, dealing with your rights, all right? All right, it's simple. You put a Freedom of Information Act on your Social Security information. And, you know, get that way. You got people that will say, I'm cashing it out. Well, yeah, you can actually cash Social Security out, you know, but you don't get what you paid into it when you cash out. And the other point is mainly when they're talking about raising the age limit to 72, if your Social Security was on the original structure of 50, 62, then you go by the year that you were in the system. Their corporation. Remember, you're elected public servants or your employees. Their job is to serve you, not to serve themselves, what they're doing today and getting away with. So, and like I said, with the Social Security Administration, when we look at what goes on when it was founded, the original structure came from a private insurance company, and it wasn't really turned over to the structure of the government until I believe it was August. I know the year was 1997. William Jefferson Clinton, and that was the same year that William Jefferson Clinton wrote his bill or passed a law that says that every man and woman is a corporation member and has no rights. And so that's what stuns me whenever he keeps going, oh, Hillary this and Hillary that. And it's like, I don't get why people don't know the truth. It just doesn't make sense to me. See, there are things that just really don't make sense to a lot of us, and we know that. So, but anyhow, I'm going to get into the floor here in a minute. I wanted to get into a couple things, but to make sure, it is illegal for any company, government agency, mayor, city council, county commissioner, jail, corporation member, sheriff, corporation of any circumstances to ask your Social Security number. That's law. Okay, and that is Section 208 of the Social Security Act. So please, print it out when you have these issues. I mean, the one thing is, I remember when I was working before, you know, I got my situation, when I had the right to deny or to participate. And the only thing I participated in was Social Security because I knew that it was something responsible and, fortitude down the road so long as I paid into it and was working. You just cannot come into this country and go, I'm getting Social Security because of what Carter did and screwed up this country because he brought all the Cubans in. Nothing against Cubans. Come in legally. Come in illegally, there's no compassion. You don't have compassion for us in your country. So, come on, people, wake up. They don't have compassion. You know it. In your own home, you don't have compassion for a lot of stuff either. So don't misinterpret the structure of life. So, but when you quote these things, realize when you're quoting the Social Security Act, what, why, and how. And that is the main thing. And when you're asking this information, if you are asking for information, always put in a Freedom of Information Act. Write yours up, serve yours with theirs. If they demand that they have to have theirs, serve yours with theirs, but yours first, or if you cut it and paste it, realter it and write it, but always autograph it and always put your seal on it. And seal is usually your right thumbprint, left thumbprint, depends on toes, whatever the circumstances might be. It's just looking at these things. But remember, when it comes down to the Protection Act on children with Social Security, this is where the states are using the money because they're going after the children for Social Security funding because they get a lot of money for a disabled kid. So they don't want you to have your disabled kid at home because they want the disabled kid because they're making 5 times the money that you're supposed to be getting paid to take care of your own kid. But they're billing it out in cycles so that way they're double, tripling on taxes, and so they're making triple to quadruple the money. And we did that. We go to prison. So that is the one thing how they put a wonderful scam on us. And that is the one thing to realize what the scam is going on. So when you look at, Social Security, the act of what they're doing with Section 4 of the federal government, which William Jefferson Clinton put in place, to take Social Security money away from the parents, because back then parents usually and the elders used to take care of their own bloodline. And then when Clinton put in the structure so that way the states could triple their money, they started attacking people. Next thing you know, DHS is on people's doors stealing kids, for a whole bunch of different reasons. And it was just for the money, to rape the blob and the children for money. So, and that's the one thing, when it comes down to Social Security and taxable, remember, the taxpayer identification number is what they ended up putting Social Security to the taxpayer. That's illegal. They couldn't do that. That is the one thing that we've been convinced that, Social Security is what taxes. No, that didn't even start. That was not part of the original structure of it. And if they take money out, and I posted it out, and I don't know, excuse me, if we have it on the website, but I got to find it. But if they do take money out of Social Security for any reason, it's a federal crime. They cannot touch Social Security or disability when you get it. They cannot. And so, and yes, they have done it, and they're doing it to me again right now. Because Lincoln County filed these false paperwork again out of the county. I traced it down to the county here, how these people have been attacking me. So that's what I'm getting ready to put this letter out and to start bringing out publicly. So, but pay attention to Executive Order 2040, what it does, and that is 8 USC, what is that, 11401. So, and realizing, do you want to participate or not? Because remember, United States citizens and nationals are declared enemies of we the people. Because that means that, you're not real. You're an inanimate object, especially when you're using the word person. So, and then when you have relatives and you're doing this stuff, make sure you get some relatives before they go, at least have somebody. Don't sign it. Certify themselves to whatever documents that they're going to be given authority over. Because the one thing is that, we're waking up, people across the country are waking up to all this crazy stupidity stuff that people are living today compared to what we used to live. And that's the one thing I thought I had that about ready to go, but apparently not. So, is the one thing is knowing the circumstances. Now, right now, I'm trying to find the deal I want to put up on the structure dealing with the president, because the president does have authority on immigration that has a lot of effect. And then also, too, when you have these problems, like I said, ORS 164125, step to services, that's taxpayers. So if a cop arrests you for traveling, kidnaps you and held you for ransom, that's the public service. Municipalities, or use statute codes and administrative rules, and that goes back to Latin, Egypt. And the active legislators. Remember, this is legislators. Municipalities and all this is Article 1 courts. These are your religious courts. These are your Article 1 courts. So these are how they are able to get this. And once you step out and you start putting all these things together, that's why I always recommend that movie, Interstate 60, because Interstate 60 will actually open you up to the law, the statute, codes, and administrative versus law. Because the statute is not law. And this was even done in Flournoy, Flournoy, versus First National Bank of Shreveport, Louisiana. Okay, and there's a lot of stuff that I try to explain this to people that are going through even property, getting ready to lose their homes. They're claiming, and it's like, file these charges, do that, and it's like, well, how do you, it's like they're waiting for somebody to hold their hand to do it. So remember, on the statute codes and administrative rules, you have to know your place. If you're a lawful bloodline native, you have rights. If you're a legal citizen, you have privileges. And so this is the separation that comes out to these things that brings out these facts and brings out these truths. Now, I'm getting ready to deal with a similar situation because I'm getting ready to put this letter out dealing with recreational vehicles in the state of Oregon. I'm sending this out to the county commissioners because it's like they want to play these games. They want to have all this stuff done for themselves. But then again, they don't want to have equal rights. They want to have their rights, but you're not supposed to have rights unless you pay them the privilege to have a job. See, that's the one thing that is all about these people. Pay me to have a job. And people go, well, we got to keep the system going. What system? Whose system? That's the one thing that always gets to me on the circumstances of that when people bring those type of things up like that. And so the 11th Amendment, sovereignty and immunity, it does exist. And we'll get that out to the general public, too. I think we have that on the website. But I will post that paragraph on yesterday in today's education. And right now I'm looking for the president's, right. And then, like I said, the bankers, because that even has effect on your Social Security number, your credit, your all that structure. That's the one thing. They tie up all this stuff in the structure. And now we're going to get into here. Here's the Supreme Court. This is where the president of the corporation. Remember, Trump is the president of the corporation. He's not a king. He's nothing more than the president of a corporation. Some will sit there and go, well, he's the king of the corporation because the way it's anyhow. Under U.S. Code, all right, Universal Commercial Code. And remember, Universal Commercial Code were not active and didn't come in place until 1963. That was after the 1940 Administration Act. And that's when they started using Social Security numbers. That's when people started, they started actually they started doing property taxes. Because property taxes really didn't exist in a lot of places when it really comes down to it until recent years. And I know that because even in 1990, when I was in Lincoln County, I was fighting with the county commissioners and other people that they're trying to force them to put them on property taxes when they lived outside of the city limits. So, and then when it comes down to it, yes, 8, USC 1182. gives the corporation president the right to deny entry into our country of the 48 states. Not of the corporation structure. We already got that. He can deny them. Anybody can deny anybody coming in the corporation. But he's talking about immigrants, legal or lawfully, whatever you want to call, from other countries into our country. He has the right to protect our borders by the treaties and the constitutions that the natives did in the 1800s. So yeah, a lot of this stuff didn't start becoming reality until the last, 40, 50 years, when people started putting these pieces together, stepping out of production, and go, oh, well, this affects that. That affects that. This treaty did that. That's why natives have rights, and the immigrants still have privileges. Immigrants will always have privilege because your blood didn't shed on this soil. If your blood ever shows on this soil, that means, well, we're not going to say anything that is, out of line. But anyhow, by federal law, it is a crime to hire immigrants. So when you are using that structure, and that is 8 U.S.C. 1324A, so it's unlawful to employ any immigrant. So when they say to farmers and all this stuff, it's like, all right, get off your butt, get your kids off their butt, turn off the damn video games. You're not above anybody else. But we're taught to think that we have privileges and, we have rights above everybody else. And it's like, no, we still have to go out and, plant and do this structure. So that's the one thing is until 1986, employers didn't risk much about hiring immigrant workers because they didn't enforce the law back then. Prior to that, anybody came over. But see, that's the one thing that they've been playing that psychological and terroristic game for us for the last few decades. So, and then, we've got all these people out there, we need to reform immigration, and we need to reform Social Security, and we need to reform the government. Well, the government's our problem, and the thing is, we're not, the only way we're going to reform it is by putting these public employees in prison. Because here's the structure: human trafficking, human capital. This is the structure with William J. Clinton, Executive Order 37, March 3rd, 1997, made every man, woman, and child human capital for human trafficking for financial gain. So, they did this, and then, and that's where they're freaking out because Trump is saying, oh, we're going to end human trafficking. And everybody's like, well, we can't do that because then the prisons can't make enough money. The schools can't make enough money. Can't forget the schools in that part. So, and then that's the thing is that, a lot of this stuff with the immigration goes back to the Immigration Act of 1917. This is part of Ellis Island, so this is looking at when they opened up to the structure of allowing people to come into their country. Okay? Because, there is no native immigration. When they try to claim out here in the Democratic Party, there's no native immigration. You're from another country. You're not native. You have to be born on your soil, and technically 5 or more generations. Most countries around the world say that. That's part of the structure that was done by the United States going back in 1787. That was part of the first immigration rules or regulation or law was formed in 1987. So, and that's the one thing, too, that, like I said, 1975, the natural man. It's either you're a natural man or you're a corporation member or woman. So I don't claim to use the word person. When people try to talk, when they want to talk person around me and stuff, I don't get involved in conversations like that because you just don't do it. You just don't take the opportunity. You cannot take those chances in the public eye because the way things are twisted today. And you see how people get twisted and the way the media twists things for personal financial gain. And remember, the media does make money when they sell newspapers and do all this stuff. And they say, oh, we don't do that for that problem or that way, because that's not the correct way of doing our media. And it's like, yeah, their thing is to make a buck. That's the whole point. Their whole thing is about to make a buck. So, and then there was a United States court case, United States versus United States of America, and that was the structure that dealing with the 28 USC 3002. They had to prove who was lawful and who was legal. That was that lawsuit was about. And that follows under Public Health, Article 30. Revised. This was revised in 2017. Okay? But, I mean, you got to look back in the history, because this goes back to part of the Minnesota Constitution and the way each state was brought into these structures. And remember, they were state non-corporations until basically, Oregon turned corporation in 1959. We have the original contract, 1846, that is really not on the internet anymore. 1846 treaty with the British government. Remember, all your treaties are with the British terrorist religious organizations. And so, we live by facts. So on your Social Security, you got to remember, you own that Social Security number. If you don't want to comply, you don't have to be involved. And I don't have the form in front of me. That's why I'm going down trying to look for the form, because I thought I had the form here. I'll just go ahead and type it in and find it, because I used to have it on the front page of this computer, but it's an SSI form. And opt out. It's an SSI opt-out form they have. And so, yes, you can opt out of SSI completely, 100%. People tell you, oh, you can't do this. Oh, you can't do that. Yes, you can. It's always frustrating when you hear these people always saying, no, you can't. No, you can't. And it's like, when does it start becoming yes, you can? I mean, I know it's crazy, but when does this start coming? Yes, you can. So anyhow, I'll look for that form right now. And then I guess we might as well just open up the floor, see if anybody's got any thoughts, what they got their thoughts on this. Because remember, this stuff, Social Security, does affect your children if they don't get it, if they don't comprehend it. Because, if you're not there to educate them and protect them, how are they supposed to know how to work it? How are they supposed to know how to learn it? So, anyhow, let's go ahead to the floor.
All participants are unmuted.
Hey, Ed,
Yeah.
I was reading through the Constitution, and it said citizens with the capital C said they have privileges. Shouldn't it say they have rights?
Citizen in the capital C has constitution rights. They changed it in the Civil War, and that was Dred versus Scott case in 1867. And they changed the capital C to the lower C to make the lower C the corporation member under the birth certificate strawman account when they did that for the military, so that way they got paid retirement. Okay, so go ahead. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, well, I was going to let you, I didn't mean to totally cut you off. I was just bringing up the point. What was the other point that you were bringing up? I know I cut you off. I wasn't trying to be rude.
But
You still there?
Said, the citizens with the capital C, it said they had privileges. I thought they were supposed to have rights.
Well, that go ahead.
She's confused by that, Ed, because
From the capital C to the lower C?
Yeah, because on there they actually did have the capital C, and as she was reading it, it said privileges. apparently they had this was something on the internet she was reading because she looked up the Constitution. So I trying to explain to her that a lot of people rearrange stuff. Yes,
Right.
capital C is supposed to stand that we have rights, but apparently they didn't. They're trying to confuse people and say the capital C citizen has privileges. So they're trying to confuse people by doing this, and it's what I tried to
Yes.
explain to her.
What I will do is shoot me a message of your email again. What I'll do is I'll email you some of the congressional records, so that way she can actually read the congressional records and see how they described it in the court case. Maybe that might help her a little bit more to not be so confused, if that makes sense, if you see where my thought might be coming.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'll do that in a little bit. Okay.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah, because no, I get it how confusing it is because see, and that's the one thing for your daughter to know this, that we've all been confused. We all been through this. I mean, most of us, I didn't start really putting together the pieces and paying attention to this stuff until I was 15, but I didn't correlate all this shit basically until I was 35. Yeah, if that makes sense, I had to take the history and learn and watch and see. I couldn't sit there and judge because I couldn't judge on something I didn't have knowledge of. That's like, that's the point of hearsay witness. You can't have hearsay. It has to be. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't know how I did.
Somebody was saying something, then went away. What happened?
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been busy. It's probably me. I didn't know you were where you were at on your talk.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll jump in. Yeah, it's open floor. You know that.
I just got on.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, we've been going over the Social Security structure on the volunteer structure and with volunteer and up to participation of it. Yeah, because it is 100% participation, voluntary. I always love when people say, "Oh, you have to pay this, you have to do that," and even today I'm still going with it. Prove me. I mean, I got the letter going out this afternoon to the county. I just served them another instrument. I got another one going out to the city. So, like I said, I've served these guys, and and it's been interesting. I mean, everybody says, you have to give this information, that information. Like I said, I've been going in and out of this hospital. They know who I am, and that's all they need to know. And I've even had them agree to it. If that makes sense.
It makes sense.
So, I haven't filled out any paperwork, and they don't, it's like I've had many of them come up and go, well, we need your Social Security number. And then when they print out my arm wrist, it's like, oh, so you already have the information. Why are you asking me stuff? I don't need to tell you anything because you're putting your corporation identity on this carcass. So because you're stamping, go ahead.
And you don't have to have a Social Security number to open a bank account either.
That's a fact, too. And I'm going to have to opening up a bank account. I want to do that again, on the lawful side, not the legal side, because there are two structures in the bank system if you actually read the Banking Act. But people don't read it. That's why you don't need a Social Security number. It's like I was talking to a couple people the last week dealing with notaries, and they're like, well, they don't want to notarize. Well, you have to go in with 3 or more witnesses. And I got to find that notary law because I had it in the old computer system before that all went down last year. But I had it at one point, or if I go back in emails, that'll probably be a couple hours to do that. To go back in the old emails, because notaries, as long as you have 3 or more people as a witness, they can't deny a notary. And that's the one thing by federal law. And if you do file on a notary that denies you notary, they are mandatory to do 30 days in jail and lose a notary license for life. That's actually their law. So, and I have heard it has happened to notarists. I have never been involved in it, but I've heard it happening with other people who've done it. So, you know, and it's like, you know, people got to remember, public employees is a privilege, not a right. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. I don't know why all of a sudden I'm tired.
Oh, it's just hot weather.
Hot weather. It was cool on the coast here. I know I've been, you know, of course I've been burning a candle on both ends, but that's life too. You know, so. But, yeah, no, like I said, I'm serving the county here, this letter to the newspapers going, well, you told me you're going to murder me, but it's okay for Commissioner Bill Hall to play dress up. So let him come attack me on that. He's playing dress up. I want to know how much he wants to pay for a sex change operation. How much do we have to pay for his counseling? We have this right, people, to know this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, well, we have the right to know about yourself. No, you're public employees. You have no rights. You have privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing we've got to get through these children's head. They have to realize that their employers have privileges. I mean, their employees have privileges. They are the employer of these employees, so long as they're native lawful. If they're immigrants, they don't have no rights. They have no say. So long as they're paying their structure administrative fees that they do in this country, it offsets the debt the way it's done in the 1933 Bankruptcy Act that was filed in 1937 and 1939. You know, that was part of the 1940 administrative rules.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you know, and like I said, you know, and it takes a while, you know, for people to get this stuff. It doesn't just happen overnight. But, I mean, also, too, it does help to, you know, if you're one of those people that don't get things, you know, play the video when you sleep. Put on low. Subconscious does work wonders on things like that, more than people realize. Because you do pay attention more than you realize sometimes in your subconscious, and people realize. So, I mean, it's those type of things. So, anybody else got anything that would like to go on Social Security? They're getting the point of it, or they're getting the point to read. They're getting the point to research it and get to know that Social Security is for lawful natives and legals don't have a right, even immigration. It's in the Social Security Act. That's the way I'm saying. People don't read this stuff. Oh, and I quoted that in the letter that I put out too, and I think I sent you the letter too. And if I didn't, I'll get that sent to you here in a little bit. So I'll get that sent to you so you can have a copy of the letter. Because like I said, once you read the stuff on the Social Security, what the truth is and the foundation of this stuff, it's amazing.
Yep.
It really is amazing. Honey, no bird. Honey, no bird. So, you know, my neighbor's got his chickens running. Honey, you know, so, yeah, the neighbor's chickens came through the fence, but that's cool. So, but she ain't worried about it. She knows the difference. Yep. Now we know where they're getting out one side. Got it. So, but anyhow, that's what I'm saying with Social Security, is knowing what the truth is. Do you know the truth of Social Security? Are you willing to stand for Social Security? What are you going to do for Social Security? You know, so it's one of those things.
Isn't it amazing how everything is counterfeited, Ed?
Yes. Yeah, everything is counterfeited, and the kids are constantly lied to. They're lied to in the schools. The teachers lied to them. They get paid to lie, just like cops get paid to lie to the kids. They can't tell the kids the truth. That the kids knew the truth. The cops didn't have authority. They wouldn't listen to them.
Well, they don't have authority because they all work for the District of Columbia. They're all Delaware corporations, states, the states that are operating through the District of Columbia.
Right.
It's all counterfeit. It's fake, false law. It doesn't come. It's not Constitution law, original Constitution law.
Yep. Yep, that is the whole facts on it. You know, people don't get how simple law and life is, but they make it difficult so they can guarantee a job for somebody else. And that's what it comes down to.
Well, it's all about money and power, power and money.
Yep. Power, money, and we're going to control your life.
Yep.
What money? All I see is debt notes.
That's true. You know, everything's based on a debt, and there's no income, no financial structure. So it is one of those circumstances we do live. You know, so it is sad. So, anyhow, anybody else got any other thoughts or stuff? Well, I guess with that, we'll call it an evening. I'm going to be back up north next Saturday. We'll do Saturday, and then I got to talk to the producer because I think we're probably doing one day a week is what we were talking about getting down to at this point. Because I want to get the rest of the field filings because I've still got to write the court case up and get that filed in Philadelphia. I already got one template done, and I got to work on that one. Because seeing that they're claiming in the only court that's lawful is in Philadelphia, the first United States Supreme Court set up in 1795. That's the one that they claim is the only Constitution court in the 48 states. Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico are not part of the United States of the people. It is part of the United States Corporation under Title 28.3.002. So it's very important that people know the difference of the words, knowing the meanings, because the wording, they change all the time. From one meaning to another, you'll see the words in the dictionary from 100 years ago meant one thing, and now today they got new words that they twisted the old words to mean something new, but meant the same thing. It's all a mind game, and that's one thing. You got to remember, they pay people to do these mind games. That was part of Adolf Hitler, what that was going on. That's a fact that we're still living today, folks. You're living it. You are the experimental guinea pig for Nazi Germany. You're living under Nazi Germany rules and regulations. Oh, if you fart wrong in the classroom, they're beating the kids up, handcuffing the kids in school today. I mean, it's like pretty sad where there's no reality of even the average man or woman, of some of the average man or woman, should I say. They have it's like they're not there. It's really sad watching some people. You look at people and it's like you just see there's nobody in there. That's the other part that's sad too. So anybody else got anything they'd like to say? Well, with that, we'll be calling it an evening. And then, like I said, with Social Security, it's an opt-in and it's opt-out, like paying state and federal income tax, including property tax, which I got a letter going out on that, because I'm getting ready to start the war on this one. Because I've already got the records to prove that natives are not supposed to pay state and federal income tax, including property tax, and I've already filed on this property tax in 2013, and so it's still here, but it's like I already proved that they can't tax you, and then they want to do that, so this is a perfect opportunity. So seeing that Claire wants to be and so I'm going to go after that one because, hey, they opened the door. Now here we can go. So pay attention, and I'll have letters in the media going out on this one with this one. Trust me. We'll see if the media picks this up. We'll see if I get back in the media structure. I just filed an affidavit that I have to autograph myself, print out an autograph, but I just filed an email, an affidavit over the weekend to the county commissioners, some news media, Lars Larson, a few others that are witnesses to what has gone to me because they've been witnesses to the case. They've been witnesses, some were physical witness, like County Commissioner Bill Hall, when they tried to put me in federal prison and all this stuff back in 2006. And all these same people are still involved. That's what gets to me. You know, and they keep saying, well, you know, that law says this and whatnot. I keep telling people, where's the law? Now, I filed my paperwork, all right, now I don't get screwed with, but that should have been a long time ago. Now I should have myself off the tax rolls and I go on with my life. But see, they want to fight and keep you into the claw of their fantasy because if they let you go, oh my God, they might not be able to get their paycheck in 10 years when people realize that nobody has to pay it. So, and I have a feeling that's coming down the pike anyways. So we're going to see that with cities and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see what this does. And remember, cities cannot claim bankruptcy. They technically can't because they have the investment of the payee structure. So when you pay your water bill, your income tax, and all that stuff, when they claim bankruptcy, where's all that money? People don't think about that. But when you claim bankruptcy, what happened to all that income that they took? See, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that people don't get and meet the eye. So with that, may the Great Spirit bless you. May Mother Earth look over you, and the Creator protect us all.
Thank you for listening to Education with Ed. Remember, a tax. Just think about it, a tax.
We got to make a bumper sticker of that one.
Yeah, we'll see about that. And of course, you do realize we'd get attacked for attacking a tax.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
All right, well, everybody, thank you for listening in, and Ed's got a lot of good information there. And if, like many people do, like with if you're like wanting to get like what is it, the health insurance thing, and they'll deny you if you do not give them social, put under duress put into that.
Oh yes.
Because and attempted harm, because, well, technically attempted assault, because if you don't have insurance, they're denying you insurance that you rightly should have, because you're not giving them something that is a felony. You're not committing a felony for them. Then effectively they are attacking you.
Correct.
So honestly, and if they're wanting your children's, like I'm dealing with it right now, I'll give them all that information, but I'm going to put it under duress due to imminent danger to my child for not having health care.
Right, exactly. And not only that, you can hold them personally for the responsibility of that.
Yep, personal responsibility for identity theft of my child's identity.
Right. So
it's various things like that you have to look at. I mean, there is so many angles that you can come at lawfully. They've left it open, but they've dumbed you down so much, starting in the 1950s or even 1940s, dumbing down the populace by doing government-sanctioned schooling, which means they'll tell you what they want you to know, and you won't learn anything else. So you have to...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You have to learn, you have to get up, and you have to, since it's today, make mama proud and study.
There you go.
And if you're on good terms with your mother, give her a call if you haven't. Say hi.
Yep,
and if she's not around anymore, as in she's passed on, deceased, whatever you want to call it, at least remember the good times, because I personally believe if you remember the loved ones that are gone, wherever they are, whatever afterlife you believe, they still sense it and they still know you care. So.
we could always live with that.
Did you say you're going to have a bar mitzvah? What?
I said we could live with that thought.
Okay, there you go. All right, well, everybody, it is currently Sunday, May 12th, 2019, and seriously, guys, just learn to be free. Have a good night.
So.